Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Above Board podcast. And today is a special day. So not only do we have the whole gang back together, but we also have a very special guest with us, Sensei Juan Colón. So all three of us are personally connected with Sensei Juan, and I'm sure we'll get to share those stories throughout today's conversation. But I want to take a second before we start talking to brag on Sensei Juan. So he started his martial arts journey in the style of Shotokan in 1991 after being bullied through his elementary school years. He currently holds a first-degree black belt in Shotokan and a fourth-degree black belt in American Freestyle Karate. He is a family man at his core. Want to give some recognition to his beautiful wife and his lovely children. And something that I know about Sensei Juan, as I've learned and gotten to know him over the last year, he is very, very passionate about helping others find their best version of themselves. Sensei Juan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. Where are we going to start, guys?
I could take him. I think I could take him. I mean,
You could take you could take him. You could take him to Starbucks and buy him a coffee. That's about all you could take.
Honestly, if one of us takes the top and the other one takes the bottom, I think we because he can't fight us all off.
No,
guys, Sensei has taught my 4-year-old so much. I don't even know if I can take my 4-year-old anymore. So I mean,
for real though. So I get to brag because I feel like I'm the one that was I'm the Kevin Bacon. Like I'm the one that brought you all together. Is that not true? So my son Luke started off at 4 years old there. He's now 15, or he's going to be 15 in next week. And Ava, my daughter, tomorrow at 9.5 years old, will be completing her black belt journey. Luke is a second-degree black belt. And Luke now teaches Johnny's son, and he sent me a picture of Luke talking to Hudson, and he was like all like emotional. Johnny's like, I'm sitting in the dojo crying because I remember when I met Luke and he was Hudson's age, and now he's this like he's taller than you now, Sensei Juan. He is, and Luke was teaching Hudson. So we've all come together, and then of course Matt's son went there, so we all have this really cool connection. Sensei Juan, like with you in your martial arts journey, you know, Johnny shared about in your bio how it kind of came from a place of being bullied. Just what was that like? What was that like to go from being the kid that was being picked on to kind of taking a different place in your life and kind of taking control of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like in the intro, Mr. John said, I was bullied through my elementary school years, and it was difficult. We come from a very religious background, and I am originally from Puerto Rico. Now, back then, it was said that martial arts was from the devil. So I was not allowed to go and train, and I've had to ask my family members, "Hey, can I go train? Can I go train?" But it was not allowed, like that. So I was tired and sick and tired of being bullied. I was just tired of being tired. I was targeted. It was physical, and it was through my elementary school years. Now, I had a friend that he was doing martial arts, and during summer, he invited me to one of the Saturday classes, which happened to be in my neighborhood in the basketball court. It was a Saturday morning, 9 a.m. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. Now, I don't recommend this to my kids, by the way, but I did it without my mom or dad knowing. Okay,
Wow.
so I was just tired of it. So I went and I had the best time, and I could see that really there's nothing religious about this. It's just learning how to defend myself. So I begged the instructor, hey, can you go home and talk to my mom? So he came in during the week. He brought in his portfolio and what he does and pictures and all of that. And that's how I got started in the martial arts. And one thing that I tell the kids is that what I thought I was going to do through martial arts was exactly the opposite. I was in my head, I was like, yes, I'm going to go ahead and learn how to kick. I'm going to learn how to punch. I'm going to kick their butt. That's it. I got this. That was not it. So I got confidence, started believing in myself more. So I talked differently. I walked differently. Well, that was the recipe for people really not necessarily, because the reality is that I had low confidence. So that's the target for, and then prime target for a bully. So, if you start walking with your head low eyes, your shoulders shrug or whatnot, that's when they start saying, hey, that's an easy target. The reality is that a lot of bullies, they're not, they could not even be physically fit or strong. They're just having some challenges at home and they need to vent that.
Mm.
Maybe there is something happening at home, and that's the way that they have to feel empowered, because at home they feel powerless. So
Right.
a
And that's that.
bully.
Yeah. That goes back to that whole concept of hurt people hurt people. Like people who are hurting are the people that will hurt other people. And what I hear you say, and you tell me if this is true, martial arts or any of the fighting arts, MMA, jiu-jitsu, karate, etc. What would you say, and I already know the answer, what would you say is the percentage of the psychological power and emotional power of it versus the physical?
Oh man, the the mental game, I would say it's about 90%.
Wow. Yeah.
About 90%. Like, you gotta believe it. That extra 10% in the physical, you know, you will get it. But if you don't, if you even so, let's flip it. Let's flip it around. So if you're a very physical person, like
Mhm.
strong, but you're weak up here, you're gonna be losing all the time. But if you are weak here, but you got a strong heart, that was going to get you to win. So you need to first prepare this and then
Mm.
prepare this.
It sounds like
So
a combo of skill and will, right? Like you could teach the skill, but the will is the piece that's right. And I'm looking at this from a perspective of a broader perspective, because not everybody listening to this is going to be like, hey, I want to go out and do martial arts, but there's something to be said about the discipline of it. There's something to be said, and Matt, I know that you've seen that with your son. John, you're certainly seeing that with Hudson. I'm seeing it with both my kids who have been there forever. But not only the discipline, but the follow through. The most amazing thing I ever saw, Juan, was when Luke did his black belt, the sparring test. There was somebody there who had a sign that said, "A black belt is a white belt who didn't quit." And that has stuck with me from all these years, from 9 years old to now almost 15 years old. What component of that do you think from martial arts could translate over to business, to family, to life? That not quitting spirit, that sticking to it, that overcoming obstacles even when you don't believe in yourself.
that perseverance is what's going to get you to the next level, because business world, you're going to get knocked down. At the dojo, on the mat, you're going to get knocked down. You always think, if you think you're the biggest guy in class, you're the strongest guy in class, guess what? There's always someone stronger than you. Always.
Another one that stuck with me there, one was as my son was going through martial arts training with you. He went from the age of basically 5 through 10, so 5 years, and completed the cycle that you've created, taking someone from that white belt, and he never quit. He made it all the way to black belt. And I started when he got his black belt, I had to sit him down because I think there's the other side of that of overconfidence. And I said, Bryce, you're a black belt. Bryce, I love you with all of my heart, but you cannot go out there. You are not a fighter. You cannot beat anybody up. And I think one of the things that you said that stuck with me, and not just for Bryce, but also has helped me professional, is a black belt is a master of the basics. And that one has stuck with me even through my professional career. As I started getting designations, I became a CFP, I became an EA through tax law. And I thought, wow, I'm a tax expert. No, I'm a master of the basics of taxation, or I'm the master of basics in the medical field, or I'm the master of basics in enter here, and have that mentality. Now, I might probably know more than most people do in this area, but I have so much more that I could possibly know. And that level of designation is just the base. It was one of the things that you instilled in my son, that as I sat there for 5 years with my very close friends, Tim and Lena, who we talked to. We talked every single twice a week for 1 hour, and since become lifelong friends. It's one of the common themes that we both discussed, is that these kids are nothing more than the masters of the basics. And that now translates to our own personal lives, and maybe not have this big head on our shoulders of that we know everything, but that we know and we still have room to learn more. It was one of the most important things you you instilled. And I'd love for you to speak on that in the mentality of you got to this level. There's so much more than you could possibly go.
I love that. I love that you brought that up because so I try to say you want to have a black belt attitude with a white belt mentality. So
Oh, I
what is
like
the
that. Say that
what is
again.
the
Say that again.
yeah,
Say that again.
absolutely. So you want to have the black belt attitude with a white belt mentality.
Love it.
So what I mean by that is, what's the black belt? Let's unpack that a little bit. So now you got to show perseverance. You got to show up when you're not when you're tired. I
Mm.
always tell the kids, hey, you're not the only one showing up here. Your parents are also showing up. So now you need a community of people that are pushing you forward, right? So that perseverance, never giving up through your belts. You got punched in the face. Oh no! Now, do I really want to keep going? Well, yes, you want to keep going. Next time, block the punch, right? So you learn through those failures, right? So, but once you become a black belt, if we have in our head, oh wow, I made it. Well, now you don't have room to bring in new knowledge. It's like a cup that is full. You can't put anything on it anymore. You got to empty yourself so that you can pour more. So as a white belt, having that white belt mentality is my mind is blank. I'm willing to receive more information. I know that I'm still a beginner. Hey, I've done this for many years and I know that I don't know it all. And that's actually what gets me going because I want to learn more. If I am the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I love learning. So we want to have a how you call it, like a learning mentality, a learner's mentality, I want to say.
But and I think Juan, with you and with what Matt just said, I had this up on my phone ready to say, but then Matt kind of set me up for it. It always reminds me of this, and I've used this in some of my presentations. It's a Bruce Lee quote, and he says, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks. I'm sorry. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." And
Absolutely.
I just think that comes down to exactly what Matt just said about being the master of the basics. Everything comes down. I'm a nurse. I mean, I can't tell you how many times at the bedside it wasn't my understanding of, like, the Krebs cycle, or the high end of the endocrinology or whatever. It was the basics. And what you teach so often there for these kids and for the adults that come there, and what you just reflected upon that makes sense for business, for family, for relationships, for marriage, is the basics. And just consistently being humble and going back over that to do that same kick 10,000 times.
Absolutely. So if we look at it in another style, let's say boxing, how many different punches boxing have? Four.
Yeah,
That's it. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut.
that's it.
That's it. Now there's variations of those punches, but that's the basic. If you don't know that core, guess what? You're not going to become a world champion. World champions, they become good at head movements and great placement of the punches. The same thing with martial arts. We want to be really good at your jab cross. We want to be good at your round kick, side kick, and front kick. Everything else is just extra. And the same thing applies with business. Like if we start and we were talking a little bit about this before we jumped on. A lot of times we try to, and I suffer from the shiny object syndrome, right? We want to look for what's next, what's the best, when we haven't moved on and learned all of the basics in this. So we started pruning here in our business, and I feel like now we have a really good core of what we need. We got to just get good at what we're good at. Our Matt, we love what we
You,
do. That's our passion.
you mentioned business, and I think that's a natural movement for us to go to, and using our analogy here of relating what you're doing and what you do in your dojo to business. But one of the things that I was frankly in awe of was we all remember 2020, and we remember what were the businesses that were most impacted during 2020. And the businesses, probably the number one business that was most impacted was gyms. And I think you fall underneath that, Sensei Juan, as you're technically a gym. You happen to be training these young minds and adults as well. And one of the things I saw, your dojo happens to be on the corner, and there are 3 other dojos on the other 3 corners of the intersection of in Tuscaloosa, where you are. And 2020 comes. My son is a student of yours. And the most natural thing, and I think what most gyms did, was tuck their head back inside their turtle shell, reduce expenses, and not knowing what the pandemic was going to bring, just hunkered down and held on for dear life. And you took a very different approach to it, in which case you embraced technology. You tried to do what you could so that there was a little interruption as possible. Looking back on it, it was near genius, and I want to give you full credit for that. By the way, of those 4 that were on the corner of the intersection where you are, there's now 2. And I think 2020 and the things that you did during that time probably paved the way for your success today. Can you bring us back through? It's now January of 2020. We're starting to see these rumors of an illness being born, and we don't know what this comes. We go to March, the world shuts down, and you now have hundreds of kids who you are responsible for teaching them and bringing them through the beautiful world of martial arts, and you can't do that anymore. Take us back through, go from January to your decisions that occurred in March, and then through how that has impacted your dojo to this day.
So that's an awesome story, by the way. January came and February, and those were the highest months ever, all the way up to that point. So we're going to have an amazing year. This is our best year ever. We're looking at, our dojo is full, our classes are packed. It's just, the dynamic is amazing. And we're like, yeah, cool. And then the thing came, the virus came, and we're like, we gotta shut down. Wow. So first of all, we got to be connected with people that are with the same mentality, right? So we have an awesome connection within our industry. So one of the biggest consulting and group for martial arts, we're part of that. And they started saying about, hey, how about if you do this, going online. So they were still fiddling with it, and I was like, we got to do it now. So what we decided to do was, and I remember to this day because it was testing week. We had testing that week, and we're like, what are we gonna do? So I went and invested in cameras, in TV, so that we can see everyone. And we were like, listen, we're gonna go ahead and run the classes online. At first it sounded like, how can you teach martial arts online, right? That sounds like a Mag Dojo kind of thing. But in my view, and what we were thinking, and as a group, as a team, was we need to give these kids something that is normal for them. Okay, in this chaos, this craziness, I wanted to bring something for them that was, you know what? Okay, I got my karate class at 6:30. I want to do my karate class, even if it's in the living room. Believe me, we saw some crazy stuff, right? And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But
Sensei Juan, I got to attest to this, just not to interrupt, but that we experienced that. My daughter did. You might not remember this, but she did several classes with you guys virtually. And I remember walking out one day. I'm like coming out of my room. I don't have a shirt on, and I'm walking past, and there's a camera. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening right now?
You just wanted a flex. You just wanted a flex. Stop.
No, not back then. That was pre 75 hard, you guys.
I also have a bill that I'm going to be sending you for the drywall work that needs to be done in my son's room for swinging around one of your swords, nunchucks, or bow staffs and hitting. Yes. He's still to this day, the socket is shattered in his bedroom from a bow staff that your instructed him to do. And all I hear is banging going on in there. And I thought,
yeah. And I have the Ava version of that Sensei Juan was during that. Ava loved it, and I think what we're kind of blowing past is what you just said about giving these kids something that they can look forward to. You know Luke very well, right, Sensei Juan? Have you ever seen Luke depressed or upset or sad? I never. I did see him that way during COVID. It was the first time in my life I went into his room. He had his hoodie on. He was looking down. He was in virtual school. And I was like, what's wrong? He's like, nothing. And I was like, why is your camera down? He said, I don't really want anybody to see me and I don't really want to see them. I go, are you okay? And he looks up at me, he goes, I think I might be depressed. And I was like, I got tears in my eyes. And that normalcy that you were able to provide during that time, as chaotic and as crazy as it was, Luke looked forward to it. He got to see his friends. Ava had to always, I'm going to be on camera. Mommy, put a bow in my, you remember she used to wear the big bows and she had to have her bow in addition to her bow staff, but she had the bow in her hair. But I think what you did was something that entrepreneurs, businesses, all of us that work, thinking outside of the box, looking for ways to create opportunity when there is adversity. Matt said it beautifully. You could have just shut down and, oh, we'll come back later. I'll go do whatever. But instead, you kind of rolled with that a little bit. You made a difference in people's lives, especially the kids. What would you say as not only a business leader, but as a martial arts instructor and as somebody who works with children, having that history of being bullied? And look, I know in your dojo, I've been there a lot of my life. There's a lot of kids who come there who have had struggles in their life, are struggling in school, are struggling with learning, and are struggling with being bullied. How much of young Juan, how much of that do you bring, and what do you see happen with these kids? And the translation that I want everybody to hear is, think about your own childhood when you were struggling, when you were having a difficult time, when maybe you were being bullied, and what that felt like for you, but then translate it into your adult life when hey, adults get bullied too, right? But you're struggling, or you're feeling less than, or your boss made fun of you in front of the team, or that coworker is undermining you and you feel powerless. Talk to me a little bit about how you see that change happen in those kids that like you were struggling. And by the way, before I forget, you know, for now on, whenever any of the kids complain, oh, the air conditioner is not cold enough in the dojo, I'm going to stand up and go, Sensei Juan did this on a basketball court in Puerto Rico where it was 107 degrees.
Oh
So
yes.
talk to us a little bit about that, about what you see, that hope, that bounce back that you see happen in your students.
Absolutely. So I remember vividly how I felt before, you know, in my elementary school years. In my life, there's a before and then the after. When I before martial arts and then after martial arts, and I always remember when my instructors would tell me, especially my main instructor Ruby, he will say, "Hey, you're great at this. You're that will bring me up. Now I have someone that is talking something positive that other than my parents, because the reality is that my parents could turn blue telling me you're awesome, but it's coming from mom and dad. Like that's what they do. They support me. When somebody else is acknowledging me, now that's powerful.
Yeah.
So I remember that feeling of, you know wow, I am actually good at this. And I have to put, and by the way, I had to put a lot of effort. I always tell the kids, I was not the talented one. I was surrounded by people that were talented, and they brought me up. My best friend, I remember, like, we used to hang out at my house, and I used to bribe him, hey, let's go ahead and practice outside or practice in the garage or whatnot. So they will help me get better. So the community that I had around me helped me getting better. And that where, our kids need a community. Our kids need a community of kids, same, like, same mindset, same parenting. So we got to look at the parenting as well, right? And that the kids can feed off of each other. The kids can help each other out as well. And a lot of times we take that for granted. But what I love is seeing someone that comes in, and I have tons of names in my head that I remember first time coming into the dojo. They don't even want to go to the mat. They're like, oh my God, this guy, this funny looking guy is about to teach me some karate. I don't know. I don't want to go to the mat, and you can see it in their eyes. And then fast forward years later, they're about to get their black belt. We actually have two or three that are in this black belt cycle. That that exactly thing happened, So that for me is that my why. I want to see the kids really be out there and being the best version of themselves. So how can they do that? Well, in a community of people that are encouraging, that are keeping them accountable. Because a lot of times we just, oh, don't worry. It's no, we got to keep them accountable. Hey, buddy, you messed up. That's why you got
Mm.
punched in the face. Next time, get your hands up. And it's gonna happen. Did it sting? Yeah, I did. It's okay. You'll be all right. You're gonna live. Keep going. Keep pushing through it. It's like yesterday, I had a conversation with my son. He's having some challenges at school with the teacher, or whatnot, and sometimes I love my son, but sometimes I got to bring him down, right? To what's reality, right? And he was passionate about that conversation, and what happened with the teacher, and I was like, okay, I'm listening. And then I told him, do you think she was wrong? Oh yeah, she was wrong. Okay, so I had to kind of like put him in the place because he was only seeing his point of view. He wasn't seeing her point of view, and then the way that he was trying to have that conversation with her was entitled, and he's not like that. I think it was just his emotions got the best of him. So I
Sure.
had to bring him down, right? So no,
Sure.
buddy, you gotta. This is how it goes, okay? And I love when I have those teaching moments here at the dojo as well. When someone doesn't get something, and then the light bulb goes on.
Hey there, you're awesome for tuning into the show. Do you want bite-sized daily doses of above board content delivered straight to your Amazon Alexa? Subscribe to Canterpath 365 and enjoy our daily brief featuring market updates, relevant financial news, and mini clips from yours truly on this podcast, as well as Rich and Matt. Visit canterpath365.com to sign up.
Well, you said
I love that point because I think one of the things that my son took away that then we've translated into business, and John and I really kind of go on this, is failure is an option. And one of the things that I can bring back to our conversation is you don't pass these kids through if they're just going through the motions. And so there was instances where Bryce was either up for a promotion or up for doing something, did not practice, did not put the time into it, and expected to show up to your dojo and just be passed along. And the answer in most of those situations was no, you're not ready. And that's a failure. And what I would bring him back to the car and say, how does that feel? That feels terrible. Do you know why that feels terrible? Because you wanted it so bad, but you didn't put the work in to get to that point. Failure is an option. The biggest lessons I think John and I have learned are failures. And I'm not talking about big failures. Big failures are a problem.
Mhm.
Small mini failures are those steps that we have in life to make sure that sucked. That was a bad feeling. I don't want that feeling again. What am I going to do to make sure that that doesn't happen? So, translating that back into business for you, what were some of those small failures that happened along the way that then turned into, I never want that to happen? And here's what I'm going to do to make some of those changes. And whether that's part of your staff, part of the building, part of the business part of owning a gym, what were some of the small ones along the way that you said, that feeling was terrible, never again?
That's a great question. So, letting people do stuff for too long. I'm a people pleaser. I love on people. And I like. I don't like when people get upset at me. And that's something that I'm working through. Because
You and me both.
sir, like it's challenging. Like if I know that there's someone has something against me because something that I did, I'm gonna make sure I can clear and clean that up, right? So, but also the other side is true where I just let it go and let it go too long, and there was, with staff members, sometimes I should have let that person go to how you call it, way sooner. You know,
Right.
happened back in 2019. Had someone that was good on the mat, but not good as a team member with everybody else. And it was bringing the team down. And, a lot of times we hold on to something because I see results in an area. But in the other areas, it's a bad apple. So everything else is drying and it's dying. So I let that go for too long. And when I let it go, it was like Dorothy when she killed the witch. Everybody is like jumping, and I'm like, are you like, I should have done this before, because everyone was feeling what I was feeling. They were just
Right.
not telling me. Minus my wife, she was telling me the whole time. She was telling,
Yeah.
and I should have listened to her
You should
way
always
way
listen to her.
sooner.
You should always listen to her. It's
Always.
kind of like I heard one time an executive say to me, "The smart leader will hire slow and fire fast." Like, you'll take your time bringing the right person on board, get to know them, interview them, get the details, but when they start dropping the ball, 1, 2, 3 strikes out. And I think for you, that's a great example. And Matt, what an amazing setup and a great question. I think that's such a lesson for so many people. What you just said, Juan, is something that I see as a consultant, that people focus on their low performers more than their high performers because they feel like they can rehabilitate them. And then what you end up doing is you end up burning out your high performers, because instead of you developing the rock stars, you're dealing with the the rocks that you need to throw in the river. And what ends up happening is, with that celebration you saw when you got rid of that person, is what sometimes I say to leaders is, I know that you have a hard time dealing with your low performers. Imagine what it must feel like to work next to them every single day. And
Absolutely.
you just made such a great way to translate Matt's question and what you just said to anybody in business or anybody that at work, whether you're a teacher, a leader. And there's leaders that are formal leaders and informal leaders. You've seen that in martial arts. I might not be a sensei, but I might be the type of students that the other students look up to in that kind of leadership. So I love that. For you, I'm curious, what would you say is the thing that surprises you the most on a regular basis, as not only a teacher, but as a person that you're really a servant of the community? You're helping build the community. What's a thing that surprises you sometimes that you just forget? Because you talked about your why. You said, when I know my why, and a lot of us get so busy with our work, we forget the why, the purpose, the heart of why we do what we do. What is the thing that sometimes just, you're driving home in your Jeep and you're thinking to yourself, man, this is why I do this?
So such a great question. So for me, well, seeing the kid's face and the adult face when they get something that was difficult at first, and then it becomes easy with time.
Mm.
So you cannot. So as you guys know, I'm from Puerto Rico, okay, and Puerto Rican grandmas, they cook a lot, right? So my grandmother will take her sweet time cooking. But when you ate that food, believe me, you will close your eyes, you will savor it, and she will be like, "Papito, you look skinny. Let me give you more." So it's just the way that they cooked with love, right? So a lot of times we try to microwave things that should have been cooked, slow cooked, and let it, and just let it simmer a little bit, And when you let it simmer and you get better at that, guess what? That taste is just so delicious, and that's what I see on the mat. When people are actually taking their time and not worry about what they're getting wrong, but what they're focusing on, what they're getting right, and then little by little fix this little thing, fix that little thing, and then at the end of the day, on testing day, they're like, wow, I got this. I would have never thought that I could remember all of these moves if they're doing a form, or I would have never known that I had that much power, by just switching little thing with my hips or whatever. Now, on the mat. I believe that this is again. I I'm so blessed because I get to do this. And this, if it wasn't for this, I would not be able to do what I do on the side. So I also teach at a church for kids, right? Kids church, and I've been able to use so much of what I do here and translate it to the kids ministry, and I mean, it's amazing. How the kids respond. And now, by the way, before I did this, I was working at a dealership, so I had no idea how to communicate with kids. Okay, before that, like, at all, I really have to work hard at that. I mean, I already have a funny accent, and I was very, very timid and very aware of that, self-aware of my accent, and and my looks or whatnot. And that's on the self-esteem part of me or whatnot. And I've been
Yeah, well,
working through that a lot.
being very handsome like you are can be it could be hard because everybody just thinks you're a pretty face, you know? And by the way, I don't think you have a funny accent. I actually think Johnny has a funny accent out of all of us, just FYI.
Thanks, buddy. Now I know that when you talk about my looks, like is this what you do? You just build up our self-esteem by talking about all of our looks?
No, I think
Juan,
one
did you not speak? Juan, you did not actually speak English when you came to the United States. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
Or very little.
understood very little. My mom is actually, it's interesting. My mom is New Yorican, but
Oh,
she never spoke to us in English. My grandmother did, so we understood.
wow.
But for me, speaking was really hard. Now, when I saw my dad speaking in English, that was an inspiration because people actually understood him. I don't know how. Still to this day, I love my dad, but he cannot speak English, and people understand him. And he lives here. He lives in Lakeland, and I mean, he's my hero right there. He's not afraid, and I think that helped me with my confidence because I will not speak, but seeing him communicate, I was like, forget it, I got this.
And now you
Sensei
speak in
Juan,
front of, especially on the days of graduation, hundreds of people. You speak all day in front of these kids. For someone who did not come here with a very good understanding of the English language, that had to have been another thing to overcome through all of the adversity that you faced. Was one of those things. Is I now basically you're a professional communicator at this point,
Yep.
and being able to again speak. I've seen you speak in front of hundreds of parents in these big gymnasiums that you take us all to once a quarter, and be able to speak in front of them. And so, again, going back to that adversity and overcoming and realizing, if in order to be what I want to do, I've got to learn something new, another new trait. And it's been amazing to watch your growth.
That's
Thank
a
you.
little bit of what I wanted to echo. I mean, I didn't even know some of those aspects of your story, and I mean, you have such a confidence in the way that you are with these kids. I mean, it's I think it's so incredible. And for us, like I think me as a parent, by the way, this is something that I don't think I haven't shared this with you, but there are instances that I can remember both with Rich with his son and Matt with his, where I believe you failed them somewhere along the way. Like they had to go retest. And I remember that. I actually remember, if it's okay, Rich, if I share, like I remember
Yeah.
the day it happened with Luke.
Yeah.
I remember you coming home and I was all excited for him. And I went to ask him how it was. And you're like, hey, bud, go home. Like you should leave. And I put that in my back pocket. And I thought about that for years as my kids were babies then. And I just kept thinking, gosh, what a good lesson. And then I've watched, obviously, both their boys excel and grow. And so I knew at some point for my kids, this would be such a good lesson to pass on. I think for me, it's hard because as a parent, like you want to give your kids better than what they had. You want to make things easy for them. You don't want to see them go through failures. You don't want to see them go through hardship. But then on the flip side of that, everything you've said, like you realize you have to experience these things in life to develop growth, to develop discipline, to have this mindset. And your story is just so encouraging. The things I'm hearing today, I didn't even know these things about you, but it's so encouraging to hear this stuff. And I just want to thank you for being such a mentor to
You
all
haven't
of our
sit in
kids.
those black chairs long enough to have your tush imprint in a way. If I could just give a small piece of advice, is you should have lazy boys there. There should
Lazy
be a
boys?
PTA, a group of parents, refreshments, You are
No,
catering
Sensei
to the wrong
Juan-
people.
Sensei
You made the
Juan's trying
dojo
to-
nice. You made the
Let's
mat
say
nice.
Juan was on a basketball court having to like drink water out of like broken water fountains. Give him a break.
He's trying to develop discipline in the minds of our kids and,
Matt
the
wants-
adults. He
and
can't
Matt-
give us
and
lazy
Matt-
boys.
And Matt wants a massage chair, but you know,
I'm
I'll
paying
say
the
this.
bill. Hold on. I'm paying the bill every month. I want a massage chair. Can I
Bring
say
your
that?
own. Bring your own. Bring your own.
Tim and
But-
Lena and I sat there for 5 years on those hard folding chairs, and I'm not fully 100% satisfied with everything you've done, Sensei Juan. So I just want to throw some things out there. You
But
can
Go
Wait,
ahead.
I'll
let him,
tell you
let
what.
him rebuttal.
I'll tell you what. So there's a reason behind it. You know, we love all of our parents, but we also love when they go home, right? So, like, imagine, like, we will be here all day. You know, like, yeah, no, I can't have you too comfy.
Here,
What is
Matt,
this? So for the folks that are watching us on YouTube right now, what is that? Is that what I think it is? Is that like
that's
a tush,
like a
tush
donut
cushion?
seat. I'm a nurse, bro, and one of the companies I work with sent me some stuff, but this is like a seat cushion, Matt. I'm gonna give this to you. I've
What's the
never
name of
used
it? Tell me it's called the tush cush. Like
It's
that.
called-
I mean,
it's called Everlasting Comfort.
if we haven't branded that, we
Listen,
need to get
I just, as we wrap up, I'm really glad Johnny brought that up, John. You know, Sensei Juan, my son is now one of your instructors. And I'd say Luke, you know, you could say what you want, but I say Luke is a hard worker. He's a high performer. I'm a little bit different than John in some way. John's a very sweet dad. I am too, but I can be very tough. And Luke has only failed one test, one belt. And that's all it took. And when we sat in the car and he was sobbing hysterically, I let him be emotional. I was very supportive. And then I switched and I said exactly what Matt said. And I said, how did that feel? Horrible. I said, do you ever want to feel that again? He said, no. I said, then work harder because you spent more time on Fortnite than you did on your test. And you're not going to get your black belt as a Fortnite player. Okay. So that's up to you. This is on you. And he worked his butt off for 2 weeks and he retested and he passed. But now he recently failed a kid when he was doing their tests with them. And he said it was hard for him to do, but he got on his knees with that kid and he said, I failed too because I didn't practice. Do you feel that you practiced enough? And the kid looked at him and said, no, Mr. Luke. And he said, but I believe in you. And I know that if you practice, you will pass this test. And that was exactly what you said to him. Because you said to him, I could pass you. You're almost there. But how would it feel if I passed you and you knew you just slid by? And Luke said to you right there, whatever age he was, 7 or 8, 9, maybe 8. No, he's 8. He goes, horrible. I would feel like I was a phony. And you said, well, then be real. So I think that what John just said, and I do remember that day because John came over with like balloons and I like had my hand up and I'm like, go home because Luke was sobbing and but it was Luke till today. Go ask him. He'll tell you that is one of the best life lessons. I am so glad that you didn't go, come on, Sensei Juan, pass him. He tried. You know, I just said, fail him because you looked at me like and I nodded my head like the old emperors. I went like, and you failed him. And but it was a great life lesson for him. And to Matt's point, failure is an option. And we do not learn as much from our successes as we do from our failures. You do not learn from your easy teachers. You do not learn from your easy coaches. You do not learn from your easy employees. You do not learn from your easy clients. I don't believe that. You learn and get stronger through adversity and through overcoming obstacles. Would you agree, Sensei Juan?
Absolutely. 100%.
That's why you don't give them a piece of paper to kick and break, but you give them a piece of wood.
Exactly.
Well, as we wrap up our show here, I want to personally say you are a great business owner. You're a great sensei, but you're an even better human being. This world is better with you in it. And we appreciate all you've done for all 3 of our families. And we want to thank you so much for being a part of our show. Most importantly, though, we want people to be able to contact you. Should they have questions? Should they be going through struggles? Maybe they're a gym owner and they don't know what to do. Or maybe they live here in our community in Winter Springs and they want their child or participate in your adult program. Your company is CMA Tuscaloosa. Tell us where we can find you and how do we get more information about the programs that you provide and how you could be a part of someone else's journey.
Absolutely. So we are in social media at CMA Tuscaloosa. Our website is cmatuscaloosa.com. and you can reach out to there through there, and you can message us. Like we'll get right to you. But we're here to inspire others, and we're here to help kids and adults achieve their best version of themselves.
I love that, and
I
thank you,
love it.
Matt.
We'll drop the links in the show
For
notes
real.
so people can
Before
find
we
it.
let you go, because I get to close out, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna put you on the spot, and you better give the right answer. I'm gonna be very sad.
I think we let Rich wield too much power by closing out.
Yes, you do.
I'm a little worried about what this question
Here
is.
we go.
Worried for you, Juan. I don't have to answer it, so it's
Who's
easy.
your pick? Mike Tyson or Jake Paul?
That is a great question, and I think Tyson have him.
Yes, thank God.
Tyson.
You had me scared.
Tyson.
You had me scared. It better be
Tyson.
Mike Tyson. I'm going, if it's not, I'm going to be depressed. I think as we close out, thank you, Sensei Juan. I love this message that you have. And I really pulled from this. I was writing down resilience and dealing with disruption and how to overcome obstacles. And the fact that you teach people how to pivot and how to become better through failing, how to become better through being uncomfortable. Speaking of Mike Tyson, I always think of his quote, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth."
Boom. I've been waiting for you to say that this entire time. And you need to know, I said that in a meeting this week and it landed. So we're talking about doing their financial plan, just a quick aside. And we're talking about all the things that could break their financial plan. And I said, you know what? As Mike Tyson would say, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And they looked at me like, what in the heck is this guy talking about?
But
all right, keep going.
That's what
I was just hoping someone would say that.
I had to say it, but that's the understanding that we go through life and we believe that we got it all figured out. And then we get a twist and a turn. We get bullied. We struggle with being in a new culture. We have something shut our business down where we have to change. We fail a belt test. We don't get the evaluation that we want to get at work, but we have the choice, and we have the choice to either throw up our hands and walk away and give up, or just say, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to become better. And I'm going to support other people and teach other people, because Sensei Juan talked about a community. And I see that within Luke, because Luke was able to take that failure, instead of letting it defeat him, he decided to build upon that. And now he's encouraging other kids, and he's there because of you. So that being said, please check the show notes to be able to contact Sensei Juan at CMA Tuscaloosa. It's an amazing dojo. It's an amazing environment. It's an amazing family, very supportive place. Sensei Juan, I just want to thank you so sincerely for being part of our humble podcast. We've all talked about bringing you on for the longest time. Thank you for being here. God bless you and all that you do. And for everybody listening to our podcast at the Above Board podcast, we are so grateful for you as well. We just want you to know that we get a kick out of you being here. So with that being said, thanks for joining us on Above Board podcast. Thank you, John Kennedy. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Sensei Juan. And until the next time, keep punching. We appreciate you guys.